Good morning, everybody here. I've heard of Nalanda and I'm here because I'm curious. There's a saying, curiosity kills the cat. But curiosity is also an indispensable virtue in the practice of vipassana. The reason why I became a monk is because of curiosity. I never intended to stay long anyway, but curiosity took the upper hand, and so it continued until now. For example, I don't think of Buddhism or whatever as a religion, more of a research into the true nature of things, which is universal. And it's based on this, I think I have been quite successful in transmitting the practice and the teachings in Europe and US. But the religious part is useful, is supportive. But in those countries where the basic support is not there, then you have to go on the universal aspect. One of the important things I find present here, not in the West, is the community and the religious infrastructure. For example, there's one group of people, I wouldn't want to mention names. They want to do away with all these Buddha images and all that thing, This yana, that yana, they want to do with all that thing. So once I mentioned them, I think there's a very lacking of these Buddhist icons around here. And I got all the battering. I mean, it's true, because we get a lot of support from these Buddha images and so on. They're very useful in our practice. Somebody asked the Sayadaw Ujjanaka, asked, what's the most important in our practice besides mindfulness? Then he answered faith, in terms of devotion and all those things. And they are not always so rational or logical, but they form a very powerful force in the consciousness when it comes to the practice. Today's talk is about the topic of anatta. Anatta is Pali, which is translated into non-self. Oh, this is very technical. It's very difficult to understand this, not because it's not understandable, but because after it has gone through all the translations and the fog of ideas that beset the modern man, it seems very far away. But actually, from my understanding, anatta just means reality. And reality is always close to us. We cannot ignore it. It's there. And that's what anatta is. But to clarify things a bit, I will give a bit of basic explanations. I try to talk as if I'm talking to a beginner. Because when I came across this, I really didn't quite understand anything much about it. Even when I started reading Buddhism and so on from Brickfields, Kesari Dhammananda, what Buddhists believe. I didn't really get into the actual understanding of the practice. Now we go back to the very basics. What did the Buddha teach? Now I bring back some memories. When I joined the Buddhist Society in University of Malaya, I went to my first Dhamma talk. Kesari Dhammananda was talking about Buddhism and the Buddha's teachings. I was wondering, why is he telling me all this? Later it sounded very clear, because Buddhism is everything we know about the Buddha, Buddhism, and all those practices, including non-Buddhist practices, and the actual Buddha's teachings. I suppose he tells us to differentiate. To simplify things, we go back to the words of the Buddha. People try to qualify what they say. The Buddha said, so you better believe. This I read from the book. The Buddha said, I teach only one thing: suffering and the way to the end of it. Now that sounds more like what the Buddha actually said. Direct and practical. Which can be traced back to the very first discourses he gave. The first discourse, it seems, was not given to human beings, but was recorded. But what we know very clearly is the first discourse called the Dhamma Pavatana Sutta, the turning of the wheel of the Dhamma, which speaks of the Four Noble Truths. Then the next one, after some time, training the five ascetics, he gave the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the discourse on the science of non-self. Many of you have done many courses in Buddhism, so you should be familiar with these two initial discourses. In the first discourse, Anya Kondanya was enlightened into a stream winner. In the last discourse, all the five ascetics became arahatas. Which shows the depth and profundity of these discourses. Nowadays, when you hear discourses, we take it for granted. But the basic thing is that he was talking about truth and reality. That the basic suffering comes from the delusion, craving, anger, the basic misunderstanding and the delusion, ignorance about reality. Now, reality occurs in different levels. First is the conventional truth, like what you see and hear now, people, cars, COVID, what else, and everything around. They refer to conventional realities and truths, which we cannot run away from. Yes. In fact, the suttas, the discourses, are teachings based a lot on conventional realities. He was talking to the man. He was not talking to mind and matter. And underlying these conventional realities are the ultimate realities. Like now we see the conventional reality is like the surface of the ocean. Yeah. So when you talk ultimate realities, you're talking about what's going under the water. Yeah. This we call the mind-body processes. And finally, to the real reality, the unconditioned reality, Nibbana. So, when we talk of the Four Noble Truths, we're talking of all of them. But more specifically, the deeper ones, the ultimate realities and the unconditioned reality. But for the beginner, you don't go there first. You start from the conventional realities, and then you approach the ultimate realities, and then finally you do the unconditioned reality, Nibbana. Now we go step by step. You cannot go directly in it unless you have, like those arahants, or those people like Sariputta Moggallana. When they hear a few words, they get straight into it. But nowadays people know you need to go step by step. So first, you study the theory, your Dhamma courses, the suttas and all that. Now we talk further on the basic teachings. I'm sure you have heard about the Four Noble Truths. Yeah? The truth of suffering, the cause of suffering, cessation of suffering, and the way to the cessation of suffering. Yeah? It sounds very simple. It's not, because there are different levels of understanding. First, you learn according to the Dhamma school and all those is the pariyatti, theoretical level, conventional level, conceptual level. You have to start somewhere. So you start with that. It is a map, something like a map, a compass. It's very simple compass. Craving, suffering. Insight, Noble Eightfold Path, happiness. So which do you want? Like one of the Dhammas, Pada sayings, he says, this is the way to worldly gains. This is the way to Nibbana. He asked monks, which one do you want to get? The one is craving and the one is giving up of craving. But when you come to practice, there's a different story. Because what is important here is the way, Noble Eightfold Path, the way to the cessation of suffering. Because you see, suffering, whether you know it or not, is there. Eventually you know it. Secondly, the cause of suffering is there. Whether you know it or not, is there. Cessation of suffering is also there. Whether you know it or not, Nibbana is also there. But what makes the difference is the way to the cessation of suffering, right? Now the Noble Path is described in three levels. Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Correct? Just basic, morality, concentration, and wisdom. Right? Now, another way of putting it in a more pragmatic way, as Pandita once gave a discourse on this. First is the root practice, Mula Magga. Second is the preliminary practice, Pubbha Magga. And third is the noble practice, Arya Magga, the noble path. What's the difference between this? The first one is Sila, the morality, plays its foremost, its main role. And the main role is played by morality. The second, concentration, plays the main role. Third, insight plays the main role. You see, the Noble Eightfold Path is, you cannot take one separate from the other. They're all together. Like the Magga, when we learn metaphysics, Abhidhamma, refers to the Magga Citta, the enlightened consciousness, which is supramundane. Now, it is not possible to explain that to a beginner. And so, to bring the beginner towards there, you have to break it down and start from the simplest aspect of it, which is more like a shadow, and bring the person up. And for example, you want to go that side, another person sees you, and you cannot see him. How? So he must come over to your side and bring you over. Yeah. So from here, you want to go to Bangkok, I don't know how to go to Bangkok. So the Bangkok fellow must come to you and take you there. Same for coming to Nalanda or whatever. So it is actually a description of the practice so that a very beginner can strive towards in that direction. So you see, the Four Noble Truths is actually supramundane knowledge. Yeah? Because if the practice does not reach to Nibbana, you cannot call it a noble path. Because it didn't reach there. Right? For example, I'll take you all the way to what you call, to Singapore. And you take, and you never reach Singapore. So, did you take the way to Singapore? You didn't. Although you may have gone to Malacca and then after take a detour and then go back to Thailand, then you haven't gone. But you say that the standard is too high. And so we work towards that. So you must have the comprehensive, at least, if you're not having there, at least you have your compass right. You see you're going to Singapore, but you look at your compass, you're heading north. And something is wrong somewhere, isn't it? For example, when you're going to Nibbana, but your craving is getting stronger and stronger, there's something wrong somewhere, The good example is sometimes people practice a lot of concentration. They don't realize they have so much craving for concentration that they forgot about giving up craving. Give a funny example. I was teaching in Europe. I was teaching metta and all those things. The moment he came for interview, he says, "Sorry, no jhana yet." I said, "I didn't ask whether you experienced jhana yet. But I want jhana. After I had jhana, I practiced all vipassana all the way." I said, and he was practicing, he was having vipassana experiences. "What are you talking about? You have a good vipassana experience. But I don't want vipassana experience, I want jhana." He said, "Jhana is very useful, no doubt, and if you can get it, by all means get it. But that craving is out of the way. You're getting into wrong concentration." So now coming back to, so you have to take the whole Eightfold Path as a very whole basic thing. So that means from the preliminary, in the base Mula Magga, the basic path, is all the elements of the Eightfold Path are there. The 8 factors are right view, right, so on, and then right concentration. All the factors are there. In the case of right view, it is more of a right understanding from theory and so on. No? Right? And karma and all that. No? And you practice sila, morality, restraint is there. But you see the seed of the practice is mindfulness. See, in the preliminary part, there's also right mindfulness. No? And so it's explained that the completion of the root basic path is the first insight knowledge. No? The first insight knowledge. The nama rupa paricheda jnana. In essence, it is the experience of anatta. Meanwhile, the person has not, but he is working towards that. You know? You may have heard a lot of things about this practices, mindfulness in daily life, MBSR, mindfulness-based stress. They're all very good, no doubt about that. But some of them insist they also practice vipassana. I said, no. I said, then what is the difference? The difference is they actually practice to get the first understanding, experience of anatta. Other than that, it is not vipassana. And the way they practice is towards the experience of anatta, non-self. If you just practice mindfulness to overcome your illness, to overcome stress, to overcome, all fine, very good. But it is not the Noble Eightfold Path. And you have to differentiate. They don't like it because they are very commercially based. So this is the preliminary part. This brings us to one point. Between vipassana and vipassana bhavana, samatha and samatha bhavana. We come a bit into this later. So vipassana bhavana is the cultivation of insight. Vipassana is insight itself. Insight is the wisdom faculty on the ultimate realities. This starts from the first insight knowledge onwards. Vipassana bhavana is the cultivation of insight. It refers to many mental processes and exercises that you do to bring about insight. Okay? For example, you watch rising, falling. Is it vipassana bhavana? Is it? Not sure yet. You have to describe how you watch a rising, falling. Because people watch rising, falling, rise, fall, they do it in the samatha way. I know a super yogi, they call him a super yogi in Penang, MBMC. He can sit for 12 hours, 24 hours watching rising and falling. You can do that. I cannot do that. No? I get bored by watching rising, falling all the time. I look for something else to do. But that's why I interviewed him. He cannot see much. His concentration is superb. His mind is very bright, very clear, and he doesn't have to sleep, all that. It's basically samatha, which is not bad, by the way. It's better than nothing, But there's a rising, falling, So rising, falling itself does not decide whether you're doing vipassana or samatha. But comparatively to, let's say, other objects, it seems to be a more powerful object because you can see more changes. It's easier to see the changes in there. So when you're watching the rising, falling, and you be very aware of the moment-to-moment changes, then you're doing vipassana bhavana, cultivation of insight. But it doesn't mean there is vipassana yet. There's no insight yet because you're just trying to develop insight, and you're directed into a way to watch, how to watch it, and what to watch, so that insight arises. Right? Now you go to Singapore, you must take the right road to Singapore. But when you take the right road to Singapore and you know how to drive, doesn't mean you're in Singapore yet. So similarly with vipassana bhavana and vipassana. Now we come to the second part of the path, preliminary, where the practice in the Eightfold Path, the main component is samadhi. Now this one includes from the first insight knowledge until just before the magga, just before the enlightenment process, just before that. This samsara, this nibbana, just before that, all the way. This is called the preliminary. This is like the aeroplane. If move and then you take off, this is the runway. Once you take off ground, there's something else. So the preliminary process is that pick up momentum of the 5 faculties: faith, energy, concentration, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. And picking up all these faculties. The main one is, of course, insight, because Noble Eightfold Path is about insight. And so, this is when you start developing concentration. Now, concentration again is often a misunderstood thing. You see, usually when you talk of reality, you talk of it in its different aspects: the characteristics, the function, the properties, and the proximate causes. Now, most people hook on to the characteristic of concentration. What do you understand? Tell an ordinary person, what do you mean by concentration? You mean that if you can fix your mind to an object and don't run away from the object, and then you have good concentration. Right? That's what concentration is about to them. But they don't talk about the object. And there are various different types of concentration. But the simplest way to understand is that in the Abhidhamma metaphysics, they define concentration as the fixedness of the consciousness to the object. The fixedness of the concentration to the object. It's just like a nail. Take a piece of wood, take a nail, hammer. Hammer with all your might and all your heart. Hammer, hammer, hammer. And then goes in. Then it goes deep in. It's very fixed. It doesn't move. Yeah? Now the wood would call it an object. And hammer will be your consciousness. Mental factor, energy and all those. Bomb. It goes and fixed there. Right? It's not so simple. The different types of objects. When you talk about Eightfold Path, you're talking about a vipassana object. Vipassana object and samatha objects are different things. Samatha objects are concentration objects. They are 99% conceptual. That means mind-made, mind-conceived. You do visualize, like you close your eyes and visualize the light, circle. Close your eyes and visualize the Buddha. Who created the Buddha? You yourself created because you visualize it. Right? Did the Buddha come to you like that? No. The Buddha actually come to you, then you better be careful. Once I was talking to these people, this is more like a cult, but they take Buddhism as part of it. They visualize the Buddha, and then they visualize the Buddha, and then they say, how do you differentiate the real Buddha from the false Buddha? When they ask the teacher, the false Buddha will turn his back and leave. The real Buddha will not turn his back and leave. He will sit back like that. What on earth is this? I think the real Buddha would turn his back and leave. Right? But that means it's a mind-created object. It's mind created. So this is a concept. So the samatha objects are conceptual objects. And they developed conceptualizations. For example, the visualizations, if I visualize the Buddha here, visualize that is what you see, and you close your eyes to a point that you can see the same image with your eyes closed. It's called a grasped object. Is it the real Buddha? No. It's a reflection of what you saw, but you held it in your mind. That is further crystallized, further refined to what we call a gati nimitta, mirror image. The Buddha becomes transparent, becomes glass. That's where the fusion takes place into absorption, jhanas. Why? Because it's created by your mind. When it goes to that level of concentration, there's no movement, there's no change. No. If there's change, it is not a samatha object. Right? Now, vipassana is different. If it doesn't see any change, it's not a vipassana object. Because the vipassana object is a process. So that's where the vipassana samadhi and the samatha samadhi take place. So for the practitioner, first you must get mindfulness first. These are some crucial points for the practitioner. Sometimes people don't tell you, but they are crucial. The first thing when you practice, you must make sure that you are mindful. No, he's not talking about insight or anything. It's mindful from experience. But what you read about mindfulness and what you think is mindfulness is one thing. What is mindfulness meant in the text as an experience is a completely different thing, For example, when you teach people mindful, be mindful of rising, falling, right step, left step, in, out. What they think is concentrate. So they concentrate on rising, falling. They don't think about mindfulness. Keep your mind there, right? So there's no mindfulness. There's concentration. So you define more clearly what mindfulness is. I always use the other way. I say mindfulness is when your mind is peaceful and it's not agitated. It's clear, not blurred, diluted, sleepy, and soft and sensitive, clearly perceptive. When you have these three qualities, then you are mindful. Whether of any object that you come across, whether conventional or meditation, you are mindful. That's the first part. Otherwise, mindfulness is the first thing that differentiates between the wholesome and unwholesome mind. The unwholesome mind, craving comes, craving. The more you think of your chakweta, the more craving comes out. Noting doesn't mean you're mindful. Your mind must be clear, peaceful, calm, detached, and then, or thinking, the more you thinking, you think some more, something wrong somewhere, So you must get a clear understanding of what mindfulness, then you can build it up. When you practice mindfulness, the mindfulness becomes more continuous. Then it serves as the base for right concentration. First, you must arousing. It's a factory, manufacture mindfulness. The pumper. Last time we in Kota Tinggi, we use the Tai Kong Tang. Because the one that you pump like mad, that slowly comes. Like boom, goes off. Can you pump? Mindfulness is something like that. So when it becomes bright, then you still have to maintain it. It's the continuity of mindfulness. How to be continuous in mindfulness? Continuity. And that's where the skill and technique comes in. That's where how to drive a car. First you start a car, then after that, how to drive a car. and then that's where you start moving. So similarly, to maintain the continuity of mindfulness. And how you continue your mindfulness depends on how you go. Right? And that's where the satipatthana comes in. All the method, what to watch first, what to watch next, just primary objects, secondary objects, and all those comes in. When you've learned the skill, then the continuity comes in. And the skill differs with samatha and vipassana objects. It's where the samatha and vipassana types of concentration come in. So the first differentiate between mindfulness and non-mindfulness. Second is the differentiate between samatha concentration and vipassana concentration. So when you go into the vipassana concentration, then that's where the vipassana comes in. Vipassana does not come in during samatha concentration. Point one. Vipassana concentration, only vipassana concentration brings up vipassana insight. Point two. But when a person practices samatha concentration, sometimes they do get insights. All right? Because they have a certain potential to gain insight. It's their individual inclinations. But it wouldn't be systematic practice. It's more like a blind shot. Because all people who've gone through so many things in life, they do have vipassana, they read the Dhamma, so there is a potential there. But in the pure practice, because the samatha hinges on the conceptual object, not on the real object. The stronger the concentration hinges on the concentration object, the further is away from the vipassana object. It's not bad, no? It's not bad. You just need to learn to do the switching, the skill of the switch. If they can switch, they can very quickly pick up. So the emphasis is on the vipassana concentration. And vipassana concentration is not so easy to develop. It comes slowly. Because the vipassana object is a process. Samatha object, the more you look at it, the more still it becomes. More peaceful, more still, more quiet, more transparent, more bright. That's a samatha object. Vipassana object is different. Vipassana object is passing away, rising and passing away. So I give the example of the vipassana object is a flow. It's a flow, a process. So samatha object is like a piece of wood, you hammer and you're stuck there. But vipassana is like water. You hammer in the water, it get you nowhere. So what I imagine it is there, so it becomes imagination, rising, falling, the imagination. So what you need to do is to get to the first object is you don't hold on to the object, you flow with the object, you follow with the object. You cannot catch the water in the river, you flow with the river. When you flow with the river, then you get closer and closer and deeper to the river. Until the point you sink in and you flow with it. So we say you don't hold on to your vipassana object, but you flow, follow it and flow with it. And in the process, you also get to observe the process. The vipassana object is a changing object. You watch rising, falling, rising. If you just follow rising, falling, you are already something like holding onto the concept of the rising and falling. No, it's not the concept of rising and falling. It's the sensation, sensations that make up the rising and falling. Which brings you to the important point of the practice. You see, the first, when you practice vipassana, you're taught about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Correct? body, feelings, consciousness, and what? Dhammas. Not mental objects. Mental objects is a previous translation. I don't like it. Phenomenon. Ultimate realities. Now the first is the body foundation. Usually people start with the body. Why? Because it's grosser. It's easier to catch. The others eventually come anyway. You cannot stop it. Pain will come anyway. You cannot stop it. But the basic starting point is the body. Yeah. Now we will read the Satipatthana Sutta. The basic of the subjects of the Kayanupassana is what? First is breath, right? Second, for postures, then clear comprehension, then parts of the body, elements, and then the dead bodies, corpses. Now, which is the main one? Overall, you look at overall. No, the posture. The main one is the posture. People make use of the breath as a primary object. But you took of the Kayanupassana, the whole body is a posture. Of the posture, which posture? Sitting. Could be any of them. Let's say the sitting. Because the Buddha, when he did Anapanasati, first said, if cross-legged in front of him, then the mindfulness in front of you, and then after they watch in and out breath. Now, when you talk about the body, you go to the Vipassana object. What are the Vipassana object? The four elements. Patavi, Apo, Vayu, Dhatu, and Tejo. Four elements. Four Mahabhutas, four primary elements. Right? And the four elements, which one is the main one? Earth element. Earth element. Why? Because the earth element is the basic foundation of all the elements. When they say earth element, they define this as hardness. That is theoretical definition. Actually, in practice, is material existence. Material existence. For example, hard and soft. They are both expressions of the earth element. You take away hard and soft, the extremes, what you get? It's just a presence of materiality. Something is there. It's mine, it's not mine. It's the earth element. And the other three elements are expressions of it, including the wind element. Yeah. And so you go up to that and you get the earth element, clearly you get all the elements. You get the posture elements clearly, you can, any body object you can use. That's why when I start introduction on meditation, I scan the body. I establish my body, scan the body, and then sensitize the body to sensations. Because once you get clear perception of bodily sensations, you get clear perception of the elements. And when you get clear perception of the bodily sensations, you can get it anywhere else, whether in your walking, in your hands, in your breath, in your rising, falling. It's the same. The earth element, wind element in the nose, in the eyes, and everywhere, it's the same thing. One may be more suitable than the other because of different reasons and because of individuals, but they are the same. So you want to get bodily sensations, that is the Kayanupassana. Okay? So once you do the what you call the Vipassana practice, and you choose your primary object, whether the breath and the rising, falling, and so on. Then you look at the sensations. When you can look at the sensations, then it's a process. Take, for example, going to a more finer aspect, your rising, falling. No? There's a beginning of rising, falling, there's a middle part, and there's an end part. Right? Can they all come together? No. It's only the present moment. Vipassana deals with the present moment. And even the present moment is a concept. The idea is timelessness. There's no time. Time is a concept, but it's a very difficult concept to get rid of. So you look at when there's a beginning, there's no middle and there's no end. When there's end, there's no beginning, there's no middle. So how can you have long and short? And in the middle, there are many middle points. Finally, you divide it into just a point of arising and disappearing of the wind element. And what is wind element? Wind element is oscillation and change or tension. It's just that moment. So that is how you are supposed to watch your rising, falling. Of course, in the beginning, you can't explain that to beginners. You follow rising, falling first. First, you must get some mindfulness and concentration before you can talk about anything else. As in the world, it says, no money, no talk. No mindfulness, no concentration, no talk. But here, we don't talking about the jhanas and all those, arupa jhanas and what all those, nirvana samapatti. We're not talking about it, we're talking about some very, very basic things. And so, you follow that. After that, you don't tell them, okay, don't just go rise, fall. No? Be in the present moment. So you watch the whole thing as a process. After that, you can see in more parts, you see in waves, you see in steps. So you're getting closer. This is called the digital method. Digital method. And you start dividing into smaller parts now, until you find that one moment you watch it, it disappears. And then you're watching real ultimate realities. No? So you learn to do it that way, then you're doing vipassana bhavana. But when you're watching it in this way, and the sensation become very strong, and the change become very strong, anatta would appear. That means you see it as a natural phenomena, not as you think it to be, as you read it to be, so on, but actually experience it. People can be watching it like that, but the first insight knowledge doesn't arise so easily. No. Some are very intelligent people, but they cannot, because they are so fixed on a wrong view. The sense of ego and I and all those everlasting theory of the permanent consciousness and whatnot. No, there are lots of these things here. No? Your mind is not open. You say, no, I'm not thinking, but it's there at the back blocking you. No? So are you here? No, I'm not here. Slap you, get angry. You're still there. No? The interesting thing about this delusion defilements, they don't have to be present for it to become a hindrance to your practice. You know? So what happens is, so you must clear all that. So that's why sometimes when you tell people to watch, be mindful. Okay, mindful is all right. Okay, you know about that. But mindful is not enough. You must have vipassana mindfulness, satipatthana mindfulness. It's not the same as ordinary mindfulness. Satipatthana mindfulness is the mindfulness that is able to look into the true nature of things, in other words, reality, as anatta. And so you must have an open mind. So sometimes it's difficult. These things, you tell a person not to think of yourself, the more they think about it, no? Yeah, you say, don't think of a white elephant, then they cannot get the white elephant off their mind. This is ironical. So what you do is, you want to think of something, just think that the mind is watching, not I am watching. The consciousness is watching. Take it as that. It's still a concept of some sort, but it's one step away from the I, the ego. So the mind is watching, mindfulness is watching. So the mindfulness the mind takes over the role of the watching and leaves behind the concept of the ego. That's one important thing to bear in mind. Leave aside the sense of an I. Don't worry, it'll come back to you. It's very sticky. So put aside, and you'll be watching things in a completely different light. That's what vipassana mindfulness is supposed to do. See things as they really are. You say, oh yes, I see things. No, there are so many things behind your mind. This will help you to, when you see impermanence, change and everything, and you look at the object in this way, it's easier to get into anatta. The second thing which is helpful is your intentions, clear comprehension. Because the I, the ego, is very closely connected with the intentions. The wishing, wanting to do something. This is very close. In the West, many people cannot differentiate it from craving. When they wish something, the craving is already there because they're so goal-oriented. Must get, if I don't get it, I'll die. So very serious. It says, there's no I. It's okay, no I. During my time, you take it for granted. So, but you watch the intention, and then the mindfulness comes with every intention you do. The first one is the developed intention. Then after that, it becomes more reduced to the impulses. And so when you do it, watch it like that, with a sense of no I, no person there, and then the idea of self, the ego, we put aside. This has to put aside first before what you call the actual experience come into being. The third, which is helpful in getting to experience non-self, is theory. Theory helps. For example, the word anatta means no self. It is a negative definition. What anatta? It is not atta. So what is atta? Atta is a self which actually means everlasting soul of the person. Ego is another thing. Ego is close to it, but not actually. Ego is close to the identification of an individual. The Pali one is mana, the other one is ditti. They are very closely linked up by craving. It's not the same. So the right view, the right theory, and all this helps to put aside many of these things that people claim to think of, and also finally it goes into the process of identification. It starts with getting that's why the negative definition of anatta is important. Then the more important thing is once you get off the negative side of it, you can get to the positive side of anatta, where it is a direct experience of reality, of nama rupa, mind and body processes, which underlies all our conventional realities. So there are two basic ways. One is putting aside the negative, unwholesome, especially the sense of the ego and the soul, wrong view of the soul. That is directing the mind with mindfulness and clear comprehension to the nature of realities, the mind, body processes, and other things that underlies it.